Before proceeding, I'd like to thank several members of our board and supporters. Terrence Davis is the chair of our Government Affairs Committee, our committee members and chamber staff, and our chamber CEO, Mary Lou Bedford, for making this event possible. I'd also like to thank our board member, Lynn Casella, and her company, Florida Public Utilities, for sponsoring today's forum. And as our forum moderator, today we are privileged to have Dr. Robert Watson, political science professor at Lynn University. Dr. Watson is an award-winning author who has published over 40 books on topics in history and politics. Some of his most recent books include The Ghost Ship of Brooklyn, and this year, George Washington's final battle. George Washington's final battle. Dr. Watson's currently working on a book on the burning of Washington, D.C. during the War of 1812. Dr. Watson is a frequent media commentator on history and politics and has been on many media outlets, including CNN, MSNBC, USA Today, New York Times, NPR, and BBC. He's also a presidential scholar and historian. We are privileged to have him with us today, and I now introduce Dr. Watson.
Thank you, Al. Thank you, everyone. You know, the health and vitality of our democracy depend on several things. First and foremost among them, an informed and educated and engaged citizenry. It's our civic duty. Each of us must be doing all we can to inform ourselves and others about the issues and our elected officials. To that end, I want to thank the Central Palm Beach County Chamber for hosting this important event. I also want to thank our three candidates, not only for agreeing to appear today to answer our questions, but on a larger level for their willingness to get into the game, to pursue elected office and serve the public. It's an enormous commitment, and we appreciate your willingness to serve our community. Mostly, however, I'd like to acknowledge those of you who are watching this forum, either live or streaming on Facebook or taping. On behalf of the Chamber, we appreciate your interest. And what a time to be having a candidate forum on an election, huh? Both nationally and here in Palm Beach County, we find ourselves facing an array of very difficult issues. A brief word on the ground rules, then we'll jump into this. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes for an opening comment. Likewise, we will close by allowing each candidate 2 minutes for their closing remarks. For the questions, you will have 90 seconds for your answer. I may allow an additional 90 seconds once we get into this for you to offer additional comments. That'll be my decision. In the name of fairness and order, I ask that each of the candidates in advance, please respect our time limits. You know, in this day and age of everything being virtual, it may be the scourge of all politicians because on Zoom, we can mute you. And I'm sure my students at the university wish they had that feature. So the questions were put together by the Chamber. I then reached out to journalists and the public to formulate them. Only I have the list of questions, have not shared them with anyone, including the candidates. I ask, lastly, that the candidates commit themselves to keeping this a civil and productive dialogue and conversation. And now, the candidates for Florida State Senate District 29. Brian Norton is the Republican candidate for the seat. Brian's campaign bio lists that he's a family man, an entrepreneur, and a small business owner who has lived in the district for over a decade and has created jobs for our community. His company has hired over 30 people. After graduating from the University of North Carolina in religious studies, he worked in the IT industry, then started a successful landscaping company. In 2018, he sold the company and is now working with an innovative carbon negative company that produces microalgae for the aquaculture, biofuel industries, and other industries. He's active in his local homeowners organization. He's coached youth basketball teams and volunteers at community events. Thank you, Mr. Norton. Tina Polsky was elected to the Florida House of Representatives in 2018, where she represents District 81, which is part of Palm Beach and Broward counties, and covers, among other communities, the western parts of Boca Raton all the way through Lake Worth, and 3 cities along Lake Okeechobee, Belle Glade, Pahokee, and South Bay. Representative Polsky serves on the State Affairs Committee, the Agriculture and Natural Resources Appropriations Subcommittee, the Children, Families, and Seniors Subcommittee, and the Transportation and Infrastructure Subcommittee. She earned her bachelor's degree from the University of Pennsylvania in 1990, then a law degree at Columbia. She was an attorney in New York before moving to Florida, where she now serves as a certified mediator. She's active in civic and charitable pursuits. For example, Ms. Polsky serves on the Anti-Defamation League's Civil Rights Committee. She's the director of a charity lunch club that raises funds for causes and is a member of the Boca Raton Chamber of Commerce. Mr. Schlossberg's campaign site refers to him as an energetic, compelling advocate for highway safety and transportation issues, driven by a personal tragedy to effect change. Representative Schlossberg served 6 terms in the Florida House of Representatives. His focus was and remains enacting policy that promotes prevention, education, and accountability on highway safety issues. He has worked with law enforcement, victims' families, students, schools, and businesses to bring them together to educate the public. He was the ranking member on the Florida Department of Transportation Committee and served on the Florida Department of Transportation Appropriations and Highway Safety Committees. Representative Schlossberg. And with that, I flipped a coin to determine the order of the opening, and Ms. Polsky, yours came first, Mr. Norton second, and Mr. Schlossberg third. So your opening comments, 2 minutes. Representative Polsky.
Thank you, Dr. Watson. Thank you to the Central Chamber for having us today. I'm very honored to be here. As Dr. Watson said, I am the current sitting representative for District 81, which does cover a fair number of areas of central Palm Beach County. Depending how you include that, I would say Boynton, Lake Worth, west of the Turnpike, and Belgrade, South Bay, and Pahokee. I skirt around Wellington right now, but the Senate District does cover all of Wellington. And so I would truly be honored to expand the area that I represent to include the greater areas of the Senate seat. So I have been honored to serve as a state rep and to work on really important issues as a strong Democrat, a strong member of the Minority Caucus up in Tallahassee, fighting for public education funding, teacher raises, common sense gun safety reform, a woman's right to choose her body, her reproductive health, make her own decisions, voter access, fighting for Amendment 4, and many other issues. So I also feel it is equally important not only to represent in Tallahassee, but to represent here at home. I'm a very strong constituent services representative involved in so many issues, and we respond and work with our constituents every single day. During this crisis, it has been more paramount than ever to have someone on the ground working with her constituents every single day on the issues that affect them, to be ready to go after the election when we get back to Tallahassee starting for session in March 2021. We have a huge unemployment insurance crisis, and every day we work with our constituents. Hundreds of constituents have reached out to us to get help finally getting their benefits. The system is broken and needs to be fixed, and I'm working on legislation to hopefully be back in Tallahassee to propose to fix. $275 a week is deplorable. 12 weeks is not enough, and so we need to fix this broken system that was designed to fail. So we also need to work on the health crisis. All these people lost their health insurance because it's tied to their jobs, and that is something we could easily fix with Medicaid expansion, which our state has chosen to deny. We have asked for a special session right when the pandemic began, because we saw what was going on with election security, with the unemployment crisis, and with the health crisis, and we were denied by the Republican majority. So we are,
bring it to a point at a time.
Oh, okay, sorry.
No worries. Okay, thank you for that. Mr. Norton, your 2-minute opening.
Thank you, Dr. Watson. And I just want to say thank you to the Central Palm Beach County Chamber for allowing me to be here today. As many of you can probably tell by listening to me speak, I'm not a politician. I'm a small business owner. I'm a husband. I'm a father. And I'm running for my children. I'm running for you and your children and your grandchildren. You know, like you said, my name is Brian Norton, and I'm the Republican candidate in this election for District 29. I got into this race a couple months ago because I was tired of what I would call the empty suits of politicians who promise, and don't deliver. And as a father, as a small business owner, it's vitally important that we have people in office who can be effective. It's not just about how strong you are with your own party, but it's about how well can you deliver back to the people in the district. And I believe that I can be that candidate. Now, I'm concerned because for decades, we've been running on the same issues, improving education, improving healthcare, infrastructure, et cetera, and nothing seems to be getting done. And I'm not running to divide the people here in Palm Beach County. I'm running to unite them, to unite the people who are Democrats, who are moderates, who are independents, who are Republicans, and say enough's enough. And it's about time we started getting things done for our community. We send so much tax revenue up to Tallahassee and get so little back because we're unwilling to do what it takes and unwilling to put our community first. And that's what I'm running for. Now, in 2020, we're facing unprecedented times. We have the COVID healthcare crisis, getting our kids back to school, getting people back to work, social unrest and police reform. And we need somebody who has the experience of tackling issues during a recession. When I created my landscape company, it was during the last recession. I grew it from scratch during the last recession when most people were afraid to go out. And I know what it's going to take to get people back to work. I'm married to an ER physician, and I talk with physicians all the time on this campaign trail. I know what's really going on in our hospitals and understand what's important, what's nonsense out there, and can help the constituents better understand that. And I'm going to be ready from day one to really go out there and start addressing the issues. You know, I agree, wearing masks, social distancing, wash your hands, those are all great, important things, but we can do more and we have to do more.
Thank you, Mr. Norton. We're out of time. Thank you for that. Representative Schlossberg, your 2-minute opening remark. You're muted, Representative Schlossberg.
Unmuted? Okay.
There, now,
Thank you, Dr. Watson. I'm Irv Schlossberg, and I'm your Democratic candidate to be the state senator. My story started in 1996 when I lost my daughter in a car crash. And when something like that happens to you, wow, your life changes. And boy, did my life change. I lost my daughter in a car crash. Unbelievable. I could either feel sorry for myself the rest of my life, or I could have turned tragedy into triumph, which is exactly what I did and my daughter Emily did. Against all odds, I got elected because the person I was running against had all the endorsements. And in fact, Bob Butterworth, who was the Attorney General at the time, said in the flyer, he should be arrested for running against Kurt Levine. So this is what I had. Meanwhile, man, nothing stops me. I'm unstoppable. I knocked on every door. I met everybody in the district, and I beat all of the endorsements and the Democratic political machine to go get the job. And I'm a Democrat. It shouldn't be like that, but it was. I went to Tallahassee. Boy, did I get a lot done. I passed the Dory Schlossberg Driver Safety Education Act, which added $5 to a ticket, which brought $55 million so far back to our schools. In 2009, the Dory Schlossberg, Katie Marchetti seatbelt. We never had a seatbelt law. Now we got a seatbelt law. We never had guardrails on the turnpike. Now we got guardrails on the turnpike. Older drivers were driving, and I took 1 million older drivers off the road because 80 years old, you have to take a vision test. And not only that, I got money for Holocaust survivors. I got money for transportation. So in other words, I am the voice of experience. I sat on every single appropriations committee with the exception of ag. I sat on the healthcare appropriations, transportation appropriation, education appropriations. I'm an expert on the budget. And the experience is sitting right here. And that's what we need in times like this. Times like this, everyone's afraid.
We're out of time, regrettably. Thank you for that opening remark. Let's move to our questions. Mr. Norton mentioned getting our children back to schools. So I'd like to open by asking all of you, what's your position on the Florida Department of Education's mandate to physically open all public and charter schools next month? What should be done? What can the state do, or you as a state senator, to assist our schools, whether they open or whether they're on a distance format? Mr. Schlossberg, we'll start with you. 90 seconds.
Sure. Well, I have a lot of confidence in our local school board, our elected local school board, to make these kind of decisions for us. That's what they're elected to do. And I have, like I said, I have a lot of confidence that they are going to do the right thing. They are the closest ones to the students, the teachers, they're close to the situation. So from my point of view, I trust our school board to make the right decision.
So you would not favor a state mandate firmly one way or the other, rather delegate it to the local school boards?
Absolutely. I have a lot of confidence in the Palm Beach County school district. Since we're in Palm Beach County right now, that's what we're talking about. I have a lot of confidence. I know personally, I've had 20 years of experience with the school district, so I know these people.
All right.
Let them make the decisions.
Thank you, Representative Schlossberg.
Sure.
Mr. Norton, same question.
I appreciate the question, and I think it's important. I do agree with the Department of Education saying schools should reopen if at all possible, because they gave them a way out. They said, look, if your local health experts say you can't open, then you don't have to. But they're there to encourage, the school districts to do what's best for the families. Now, I personally believe, and many of the people that I'm talking to believe, that the school board's responsibility is to provide safe and effective ways for our children to learn. And it's the parents' right to decide what's best for them and their families. If it's best for them to send their kids back to school, the school should provide that option. If it's best for their families to keep their kids home and do distance learning, that's okay too. But it's the school's responsibility to provide those environments for them. And we all know that this pandemic isn't a hurricane. It's not passing us by. And we have to get through it. And we can't get through it by standing still. And it starts with step after step after step. And I strongly believe that it should be the parents' rights to choose what's best for them and their families, so that we can continue to move forward, because there's many families that are suffering because they can't send their kids back to school because they're not getting the proper nutrition. And you can't educate everybody virtually, especially if you have learning difficulties.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Norton. So you do support the state mandate, but with an exception for parents to make a decision that they feel is in the best interest of their children.
Correct. Just like the state delegated to the county school boards, county should delegate that back to the parents.
Okay, thank you. Representative Polsky, same question.
Thank you. I think what Mr. Norton fails to take into account in his answer is that it's not just the parent's decision whether or not their child belongs there. There's so many more issues involved. There's teachers, there's employees, there's bus drivers, there's logistics that you can't imagine. I've worked very closely with the Palm Beach County School District for the last 2 years. I know each of them personally, worked on many issues with them, fought for them in Tallahassee, fought for their funding, fought for teacher raises. And so you can't just discount all the things that they have to take into account. I do agree that I believe Palm Beach County School Board and Broward School Board, which is also part of this Senate district, has the right to make the decision on whether it's the right time to open up school. And I agree with their decision that it is not the right time to open up school. To begin with distance learning, we have had record-breaking outbreaks. We are the 4th largest country in the state of Florida with outbreaks. And so to think that we can just go back to school and pretend everything is normal is very foolhardy, in my opinion. So I respect Palm Beach County's decision. I believe Broward is going in the same direction, and it is not right of the state to mandate schools open. We deal with preemption issues all the time up in Tallahassee. We fight for local governments, for counties to be able to make their own decisions, and the state keeps over and over and over again trying to put its thumb on the scale, and that is not right. And it is just something that whoever ends up in Tallahassee in the seat, you have to deal with. And it's super important to represent your district and to fight all these preemption issues that they keep bringing up over and over and over again. I sit on state affairs. We have these issues every single day in committee in state affairs.
Okay.
And I'm telling you, it just keeps going on. And it's up to us to be the ones to stop the state from telling our local government what they can or cannot.
Thank you, Representative Polsky. Thank you. And if we have more time later, I'd like to come back to that and ask all of you what the state or the federal government could be offering schools in terms of supports. Should they open or should they go distance? Let's move to our next question for now, however. Home rule. Florida's a home rule state, yet numerous organizations and localities claim that each year the state continues to erode communities' rights to govern themselves. Do you feel this is happening? Is it a problem? And can you give me an example? We'll start with Mr. Norton.
I'm a strong supporter of home rule. And part of that is because I believe that what's best for one community is not best for another community. And it's very plainly to see what's best for Boca isn't what's best for Belgrade. And we need to continue to allow our local communities to have those decision-making skills. But it's not just at the state level, it's also at the county level. The county should be following those same guidance and say, hey, we have local municipalities. We need to let the mayors and the boards and the commissions in Boca decide what's best for Boca, in Wellington, what's best for Wellington, in Belgrade, what's best for Wellington. So for example, we take the equestrian community over in Wellington. They have to make certain decisions that support that infrastructure, that community, that economy, those jobs, that may not be the same decision that they're going to make out in Belgrade or the same decision that they're going to make out in Boca Raton. You know, they want to have those horse arms. Boca doesn't want to have those horse arms. Both are okay, but you're allowing those communities to make those decisions. And that comes not only from the state saying to the counties, you have more autonomy, but from the counties telling municipalities the same thing, and stop, trying to hoard that power at the county level.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Norton. Representative Polsky, same question.
Yes, well, I'm glad you brought that up because it's exactly what I was saying with respect to this school board mandate. And it's the opposite of what Mr. Norton just said before, that the school board, the Florida school board should not be telling our local counties what to do. We all know that there is a worse outbreak in South Florida than there is in other parts of the state. And so they should be able to make those decisions, but that's not how it goes in Tallahassee. And I know you don't know that because, you're not there. I'm the one who's there. I'm the one who's been there, and I'm the one who I hope to continue to be there because I have the current experience to make sure that our local governments and continue to be able to make their own decisions. And I have the track record to prove it. If you look up any of my votes in state affairs and on the floor, we deal with preemption every day in Tallahassee. And they constantly are trying to tell local governments what to do. And thank goodness for the League of Cities and the League of Counties, because they get up to the podium in each committee and go on each time, because it's like the same battle over and over again. They're telling you how to cut trees. They're telling you how to run city government meetings. They're telling you that you can't have virtual meetings. They're telling you how you can vote. And we're talking about individual governments. They tell you how that you can run your elections, like local municipal elections, when they can be and how they should be. And so it's just not right. It's a huge state, and we should allow the different areas to run the way they see fit. And it's an alarming trend that is going on in the majority party, where they are trying to rule with an iron fist from Tallahassee. And it is just not, I think, the way it should be done. And so I have been voting against preemption for the past 2 years.
Okay, thank you, Representative Polsky. Representative Schlossberg, same question on home rule. You're muted, Representative Schlossberg. There we go.
Sorry, Dr. Watson.
No worries.
Listen, I'm for home rule. I have 12 years of experience in the legislature. I've been on every committee possible. And it's important to talk about relationships, because when you're on all of these different committees, you form relationships. And like, I'll give you the example of myself and Mayor Kerner. I understand exactly what Dave wants, because he's in my ear saying to me, hey, Irv, here's what we need. And rather than talking about the governor or these guys, he's not in my ear. I mean, I'm in the ears of our local school board, our local commissioners, our city commissioners, our county commissioners. It's all about relationships. And it's not about I, which is what Tina was talking about just now. It's about we. We're a team in Palm Beach County. We're a team. We're all a team. And this is the difference between myself and Tina. Tina's all about I. And I'm all about we. We're a team.
Okay. Thank you, Representative Schlossberg. Both Representative Schlossberg and Representative Polsky have dealt with appropriations and budgets, and Mr. Norton has run a business, so he certainly managed budgets. So on that note, please identify a budget item in the state budget that you intend to address and make a priority as our state senator, and tell us why you feel that budget item, good or bad, is critical to this district. Representative Polsky, we'll start with you.
Sure, thank you. My very first bill that I ever filed was to raise teacher salaries. And while not surprisingly that bill was not heard, because of the constant pressure that was put on by the minority party, we were able to finally get very significant teacher raises in this budget. And we all know what happened to the budget this past year. While it was unanimously voted upon back in March, prior to the pandemic really taking hold, and it had some really great features, including full funding of Sadowski, Affordable Housing Trust Fund for the first time ever, teacher raises, state employee raises, a lot of money for Florida Forever for conservation funding and purchasing lands. It was really a great budget for the first time. And of course, during the economic downturn, when our economy relies so much on sales tax and tourism taxes, we are going to be taking a huge hit. So the governor did have to veto quite a bit. One thing that was saved was teacher pay. What I would like to work on, which I believe is your question, going back to Tallahassee, is veteran teacher pay. So that is something we fought for on the floor as a caucus, and we were able to get some concessions like instructional personnel, in addition to instructional personnel, like some administratives, media specialists, special education teachers, to get additional money, but we were not able to get as much money as we would like for veterans teachers. So that is something I've heard from my constituents that I would continue to work on. I'm thrilled to have the endorsement of the teacher union, of the Florida Education Association, because they know my dedication to this topic, and I will fight for veteran teachers, because it's not just new teachers who should get raises, but veteran teachers as well.
Thank you, Representative Polsky. So veteran teacher salaries in education. Representative Schlossberg, same question. Which budget item would be your priority?
Well, that's another stark difference between myself and Tina. Tina's talking about yesterday. I'm talking about tomorrow. And tomorrow is, we know we've got a COVID-19 major problem here. And we know we've got a testing problem here. And what we don't have is a state mandate for formal requirements for testing. You know, the universities, they need funding so that they can verify the testing results are right. You know, I'll give you an example. My daughter went for testing at FAU, I think, and it's like you wait 7 days for the results or 6 days for the results, and it's like that everywhere in the state. This is crazy. We need to fund the proper mechanism so that we get our test results in 2 days. And then next thing we need to fund, and I'm not saying we don't need to fund teacher salary. We do need to fund teacher salary. Right now, there's a major unemployment issue. Who's going to fund this broken system? I mean, I voted against Rick Scott and I voted against his unemployment deal, but like now we're stuck. And you know what? We need to go fix this right now. We need to fix our COVID epidemic, and we need to fix unemployment issue. This is what's happening right now. Tina's talking about yesterday. We need to think about what's going to happen tomorrow, and I'm on top of tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you, Representative Schlossberg. Mr. Norton, same question about a budget item and your priority.
Yeah, thank you. You know, I actually have to say, Herb is right. We need to be focusing on today. You know, we need to be focusing on COVID. We need to be focusing on the economy. We need to be focusing on, you know, what's going on here and today in our community and getting what we need. And it's not just expanding testing, it's the labs. There's rapid testing, there's the 7-day testing, there's 3-day testing. But again, it comes down to the labs that we need to put in place, the infrastructure that we need to have in place in order to expedite it. We have hospitals that can't do rapid testing anymore because they can't get the swabs. We need to start fixing those problems. We need to start putting out more grants and loans to our small businesses who have been having to close down through no fault of their own, because we want them to stay safe. We want our communities to be safe. And we need to give them the opportunity, almost like an insurance company would. If you have a water leak in your house, their responsibility is to take you back as if before it had happened. And it should be the goal of the state to do the same as best as possible. It's not going to be perfect, but that should be our goal with getting people back to work, because we're going to end up losing more of our fellow neighbors and community members to the depression that comes from the economy and the downside of not having a quality job and being able to feed your family than we are to the virus. Both things are equally important. And at the same time, start to facilitate and fund the areas to bring people back into the community, back to work. And whether it's through education or through healthcare, police reform, all those issues, we have to start looking at what are today's issues and getting those tackled, getting society back to a stable infrastructure so we can all move on.
Thank you, Mr. Norton. Next question, a political one. Governor DeSantis. Of course, he's not on this ballot, but he is our governor. Mr. Norton, you were asked by Florida Politics, the source, who has been Florida's best governor in modern times, and you answered, and I quote, Ron DeSantis, no question about it. Yet Representative Polsky, for instance, has been critical of the governor's handling of the current COVID-19 crisis. Two-part question. So, is Governor DeSantis our best governor? Give me an example of where you support or oppose him and how you plan to work with him. Mr. Norton, since I brought you up, we'll start with you.
Thank you. Yeah, so I will have to put some context there. In my time here in Florida, I've known Charlie Crist, Rick Scott, and Governor DeSantis. So out of those three, hands down for me, it's Governor DeSantis. And it's really because I see him as a person similar to me in that our goal is about getting things done, moving forward, not spending time just talking about, oh, this would be nice to do. Yeah, we should do this and that, but actually being somebody who does something. And when you're a doer, as a small business owner, you learn this really quick. You're going to fail at things. You're going to mess up, and you got to learn to pick yourself back up and keep going. And you're not always going to be right. And I don't always agree with the governor, but in a lot of areas I do. I agree with giving him, not having a universal mandate on everything across the state, because as I said before, what's best for our community is not what's best for other communities. Every community needs to have the ability to do what's best for them and needs to be able to engage and activate their citizens to get out there and have the courage to go back and help take the risk. If we're willing to ask our physicians, our nurses, our healthcare workers, our grocery store people, the people that clean our office buildings at night, to go out there and risk their own selves so that we can go back out there, we all must be willing to do the same. And so that those that can't, that have those pre-existing conditions, that are elderly, so that they can stay home, so that once this pandemic gets past us, they have something to get back to.
Thank you, Mr. Norton. Mr. Norton, a quick follow-up on the governor's handling of the COVID-19 crisis. Since I'm a professor, give him a letter grade, and you can use pluses and minuses. What letter grade would you give him on that?
I was never a fan of letter grade. I mean, I'd probably give him a B+, right?
Okay.
And a lot of it has to do with the fact that they took a strong approach on protecting our elderly from the nursing homes, especially when you compare it to places like New York.
Okay, thank you for that. Representative, I'm not a fan of letter grades either, but we have them. Thank you. Representative Polsky, same question about Governor DeSantis, who's the best governor. Give me an example of where you approve, support, or oppose him.
Thank you. As you noted, I have been very critical of the governor. In fact, pretty early on in the pandemic, as I think I mentioned before, we called for a special session to deal with really important issues that we knew were coming down the pike. And the governor, the leadership in both houses rejected that call. The governor could have called for a special session at any time during this whole crisis, and he hasn't. And the problem is he's not leading. Numbers are going up. How is that leading? How is that fixing our situation? As my two colleagues mentioned, testing results are taking 8 to 10 days. How are you going to do contact tracing? If someone is walking around not knowing that they are infected, and then there's no way to stop them, get them quarantined, and to get them to tell other people they've been in contact with. So there's no point of contact tracing if you have delayed test results. So the governor has taken no lead on this whatsoever. There's not enough testing. I am providing testing in South Bay in my district next week that has been donated by some companies. And we're just trying to give some extra help to a big hotspot in the glades that's going on right now. But it shouldn't be incumbent upon an individual legislator to provide testing. This should be a statewide mandate, and he is not leading. And so I have called for another special session, because if he doesn't do the job, then at least let the 140 legislators do their job. And if he can't do it, we'll do it. I'm doing everything I can for my own constituents, but he's not leading the state. And it is a statewide problem.
Okay, thank you, Representative Polsky. A quick follow-up, I'm going to ask you to take off your attorney and mediator hat and put on a professorial hat. What letter grade would you give the governor for his handling of the COVID crisis?
An F.
An F, okay. We don't have much of a normal distribution curve here so far. With that, we'll go to Representative Schlossberg.
To be the
Same
fourth,
question
as a state, to be the fourth largest country,
in the world.
number of cases, that's pretty bad.
Okay. Representative Schlossberg, same question about Governor DeSantis, and where do you oppose and where would you support him? And thank you.
He's not handling the situation right at all. And numbers don't lie. Look at our numbers. Every day, you either watch CNN, MSNBC, or Mr. Norton watches Fox. And the numbers on all the stations, they're exploding. And what state is coming out of the broadcaster's mouth first? Florida. Florida has a terrible reputation. And the reason that they have such a terrible reputation is that Governor DeSantis is not really clear on what he's doing. You know, one day he's doing this, one day he's doing another thing. I think his ratings were very high until you hit a crisis. And then all of a sudden he got confused. And he is just a real confused guy. And basically, you know, what we should be doing is we should have some kind of a state mandate on the testing issue. This is we have to have something, some formal state testing criteria to have this work. It's just not working.
Okay. Thank you, Representative Schlossberg.
I give him an F, by the way.
Okay. Thank you for anticipating my question. Okay, thank you. Next question. Another political question, endorsements. We'll start with Representative Polsky. You've received an impressive number of endorsements from many area politicians and leaders, the Sun Sentinel, unions, women's organizations, teachers organizations, and gun safety organizations. However, in a Sun Sentinel interview, Representative Schlossberg said that you are, quote unquote, owned by special interests. What would you say to that charge, Representative Polsky?
Thank you for that question. It's baseless completely. I asked the editorial board, asked him name a single vote that Representative Polsky took that was affected by special interests, and he had none. The two Representative Schlossbergs have taken money from special interest lobbyists, big corporations, including Big Sugar. So to accuse me of that is very hypocritical and ridiculous. Not a single vote of mine, not a single policy decision has ever been affected by donations. I do not have the luxury of being self-funded the way my opponent is. I wish I did. God bless him for having that kind of financial fortitude to be in his third Senate race and be spending millions and millions of dollars. I do not have that. I had to look towards individual donors from $5 to $1,000. I get donations every single day from people I do not know because they like my platform and they want to see me be their state senator. It is so endearing and it's such an honor, and I'm so thrilled to have their trust. I do get donations from groups that represent interests in Tallahassee. The really interesting part is they're complete opposites. For example, insurance and trial lawyers both give me money. Ophthalmologists and optometrists both give me money. They have dueling interests in Tallahassee from time to time, and I don't have enough time to talk about it here today, but you will get visited in Tallahassee by all different kinds of groups. But I also get money from unions, hardworking people who donate their salary and it goes to unions and they give it out to candidates that they want to represent them. So there's just such a variety of people who decide to donate to you because they think I will be the best senator. They're thrilled with my record as a representative, smart, strong, engaging, and I listen to people and I'm open to hearing all their views because that's the role of a legislator.
Thank you, Representative Polsky. Thank you. Representative Schlossberg, let's flip the script. The Sun Sentinel editorial board interviewed candidates and endorsed Representative Polsky, saying, and I quote, that you are not the man for this moment. Likewise, this seat was held by Senator Kevin Rader, who announced recently that he would not seek another term. He stated that he wants Representative Polsky to succeed him. How would you respond, Representative Schlossberg, to the Sun Sentinel editorial board and Senator Rader? You're muted, Representative Schlossberg. Let's unmute here first. There we go. Okay, we're good.
Okay. First of all, the Sun Sentinel editorial board. You know, if you really listen to that interview very closely, Randy Schultz said, I don't listen to the party leaders. Hey, this is a Democratic primary. Come on. I mean, you know, I'm not there to be a sheep. That's not my job. My job, the people from this district, they don't need sheep going up to Tallahassee. You need lions. You need people who are going to fight for you. And, you know, that's Irv Schlossberg. And as far as Tina Polsky goes with saying, oh, I don't have any money, blah, blah, blah. Well, who put this ad out saying that I am a gun safety, saying I voted to allow open display of firearms. I voted to allow guns in nightclubs. I even voted to allow guns in schools. Tell me, Ms. Polsky, who put this ad out, 40,000 of these copies in everyone's mailbox? I mean, I didn't do it. My friends didn't do it. Tina Polsky did it. And this shows you, watch what people do, not what they say. I mean, I was the ranking member of criminal justice. Now, do you really think the Democrats would let me be the ranking member of criminal justice if I was for guns in school? Look at this, Ms. Polsky, and tell me, did my mother put this out? Did my brother put this out? Did my cousin put this out? Tell me, who put this out?
Okay. Thank you, Representative Schlossberg. Representative Polsky, I'll let you respond to that, but please, very briefly.
It's just the voting record. That's all it is.
Voting record, okay. Mr. Norton, I'd like to ask you, what do you make of this difference in opinion between Representative Polsky and Representative Schlossberg over endorsements? And your campaign material has not said much about endorsements that you've received one way or the other. Are they important, Mr. Norton?
I appreciate the question. You know, you probably saw me smirk a little bit. To me, it's funny. Again, I'm not a politician. I'm running as a citizen, as a father, small business owner. And, you know, I haven't been going out there seeking endorsements. I'm going out there and I'm talking to the people, directly to the people. I'm talking to different industries. I'm talking to different companies because I'm trying to better myself as a candidate, to better myself as a legislator. And I'm not here to pander and to get money just so that I can get into office. I want people to know who I am, to trust me, because every day I promise people I will continue to earn your trust and your respect. And it comes by you knowing exactly what I believe, where I am. Even if we disagree, that's okay. But I don't want anybody to think for 1 second that they can buy my vote. For 1 second to think that, well, if I tell them what I think they want to hear, then they're going to support me. Because that doesn't do any of us any good. What actually does good is having people with integrity and honesty that will go into Tallahassee and work with all sides. It doesn't matter if you're Democrat, Republican, or independent. And I know Tina's going to call me naive again, but I'm not bogged down by what's happened in the past. I haven't been trained to do this the wrong way. I am running to actually get things done. I'm not here to waste my time or to buy some time to go to the next seat that becomes available. I'm here to help my community. And any way that I can do that, I'll talk with anybody. I'll talk with the NRA. I've been talking with Moms Demand Action. You know, I talk with local gun store owners. I talk with everybody because everybody has something to add. Everybody has value and everybody is right from their own perspective, and that's okay. And it's about balance. At the end of the day, it's about balance between all sides, and that's the way we can move forward together.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Norton.
Can I
Representative,
have a second, Dr. Watson, just to show the record? Here's the
Um,
record.
let me ask Representative Polsky.
Here's the
and then I'll
voting
come
record.
back.
There's the voting record.
It's a little bit blurry. I'll tell you what, let me ask the question, then I'll come back and ask you to explain your record.
Yes, that was her point.
Yeah, that was her point.
On that point now, Representative Polsky, you are serving in the state House. Can you name a high point and a low point of your service in the state House? And why then leave the state House to pursue this particular seat? Representative Polsky.
Thank you. I would say a high point was, as I talked about before about the budget, when the Democrats held strong together on the last day and we all gathered together to hold strong on the teacher pay raise. I'm sorry, Dr. Watson, this is very distracting to me of what's going on in that frame.
Yeah, Representative Schlossberg, I'm going to give you 90 seconds coming up. If you could refrain from the, it hasn't been admitted to the court. So thank you. Representative Polsky, continue and we won't take the time away from you.
Thank you. There's been some mention about working with party leaders. We are, the fact of the matter is that we are in the minority, and that is very likely not to change in either chamber for the upcoming session. So what we have in our strength is working together as a caucus, staying together as a caucus, and fighting for what we believe in, because in the House we were 47 strong if we stood together. So we worked together and stood together at the risk potentially of some Democratic members' bills, which hadn't been heard yet because they're being held up by the Republican majority until we got this budget vote done. So they hold it up as a little, this is a good example of high point and low point in one example. They will hold out Democratic bills and not allow a vote on them until we kind of agree to something else that they want. And the clock was running out. It was the last day of session this past year. So the low point is the games that are played and the fact that some of my colleagues were potentially giving up bills that they were very important to them to get heard in order to fight for the budget for the teacher salary bill, as I mentioned. And so the high point was sticking together and getting, as I said, what we said, some concessions. One being, this all comes back full circle, preemption, because Commissioner Corcoran wanted to have control over this money that was going out to the teacher pay. And we said, no way, this is local control, just as we talked about before. Okay. And we wanted other people besides instructional personnel to be able to receive money.
And Representative Polsky, let me say this, why then run for this particular Senate seat very briefly?
Sure. I mean, it's an opportunity that doesn't come up that often. If, you know, Senator Rader stayed in, he potentially had 4 or 6 years. When he decided not to, and he asked me, he said, you know, you'd be the best candidate for it. It was a great chance to be able to be in a chamber that is more bipartisan, does give senators more of a voice. You have much more chance to have legislation be heard, and you represent 3 times the number of people. So I thought it was a great opportunity for me to just be a stronger voice for my constituents up in Tallahassee. And, you know, a lot of people asked me to do it, and I thought it was great. And I would still represent almost the entirety of my House district is in the Senate district. So I wouldn't be leaving them, which was very important to me.
Okay, thank you. Representative Schlossberg, I'm going to ask you a question, and then I promise we're going to come back and all 3 of you can talk about gun control and your record. Representative Schlossberg, you've run for the state Senate seat twice before, unsuccessfully. What lessons have you learned from those 2 failed bids, and is the 3rd time a charm? Representative Schlossberg.
Never give up, Dr. Watson.
Okay.
That's it. Never give up. The last time I ran, I took on Jeff Clemens. I moved out of my district into another district in honor of my daughter who died in a traffic crash. Jeff Clemens got 20 traffic tickets and 2 license suspensions. And I just felt this is not the right guy for the Senate. So I forgot my famous proverb. When you go down a path of revenge, dig a grave for yourself and dig a grave for your enemy. And that was a big mistake. So, okay, I made a mistake, but never give up. But as far as the guns record goes.
So let's ask this, and I'll start with you since we have you on. Would you explain a vote of yours on the issue of gun control? And related to that, what kind of gun control bill or opposite would you like to see passed in Florida?
Okay, well, first of all, let's get back to
You can take the
Miss.
screen down. It's
Let-
a little blurry, a little hard to see.
Put it
If
down.
you back it up a little.
Okay, let's get back to Miss Polsky's lies here about. She said, "I voted to allow open display of firearms. I voted to allow guns and nightclubs. I voted to allow," and she, I voted to allow guns. And she says, "Check the facts." And she gives, and here's the fact. Show the fact. I voted against guns in school. I mean, I voted against all of these things. You know what the bottom line is? She's making up. It's all just some kind of made up dream of hers. And so if she wants to check the facts, and you know what? I didn't have to send out any negative mailers on her like, oh, she voted for this or she voted for that. You know why? Because she did nothing. She was there for only 1 year, and she didn't do anything.
Thank you, Representative Schlossberg.
Sure.
Before I go to Representative Polsky and Mr. Norton, let me propose this. Representative Schlossberg, you or your campaign can email the voting record, send
Absolutely.
it to the chamber, and the chamber can make it available. Representative Polsky, you are also free to send the voting record to the chamber, and the chamber can make that available to folks. Representative Polsky, same question. Representative Schlossberg's voting record on guns, and what type of gun bill or gun control bill would you like to see passed in Florida?
Sure. Well, I'm definitely the only one here who has proposed gun legislation, gun safety legislation. Representative Schlossberg never in his 12 years as a legislator proposed gun safety legislation. I proposed 2 years in a row, I think the most perfect compromise bill to make I would really appreciate the respect of not trying to distract me while I'm talking, Representative. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I think the perfect compromise between gun owners and people who are looking for more gun safety, to make the safer storage of guns important and to make it a prosecutable offense. We have a pretty good law on the books, but it is never enforced. And you hear about these terrible toddler deaths or teen suicide, or God forbid, someone taking a gun from a parent and shooting up, doing a mass shooting. And that has happened. And the reason is that the law is not enforced properly. There's not proper education on it. And so I sought to expand the safe storage of guns bill. All I'm asking for is responsible gun ownership. I'm not taking away people's guns, but if you are a gun owner, you need to store your gun in a safe or with a trigger lock, and to not have it accessible to a toddler. Representative Schlossberg's record speaks for itself. He voted against repealing Stand Your Ground. He voted against an exemption for concealed carry in schools. That's the vote that he's referring to. And most importantly, he voted for the Republican reapportionment plan, which put the Republicans in power for another 10 years. And that vote is coming up in 2 years. And if you don't have a state senator in place, if you're a Democrat and you don't have a state senator in place who's going to stand firm on reapportionment, then we're all in big trouble. And that's the record.
Thank you, Representative Polsky. And
Want
let
to
me
answer
then
that?
again invite, 1 second, Representative Schlossberg. Let me then again invite Representative Schlossberg and Representative Polsky to submit any voting record material to the chamber, and along with questions from the audience, and the chamber will make that available. Mr. Norton, thanks for your patience. Same question. Where are you on the gun issue, and what kind of gun or gun control bill would you like to see passed in Florida?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question. I do have to say, as a constituent in the district, and Tina's, Representative Polsky's constituent, the bickering to me is just, it's a bit childish. But I'm here to work together. And one of my concerns with both Representative Schlossberg and Representative Polsky is their inability to work with all sides, both sides. And part of that is simply because they're afraid to go talk to the Second Amendment people. They're afraid to go talk to the gun store owner and say, hey, where can we find common consensus? Because when I've gone out there and I've talked with the people that are, hey, we want to take away all guns and we want to keep all guns, and everywhere in between, because I've taken the time to go out and talk to them, there's a lot of areas that we all agree on. Making sure that our laws are properly enforced, making sure that we close those loopholes, whether it's for background checks, but also for mental health. to make sure that we have additional funding for education on, gun safety and gun storage. There's many different areas that we all agree on that we need to be focusing on, more importantly than the areas that we disagree. Because I strongly believe that once we start taking care of the areas that we agree on first, many of these other things that we disagree on will take care of themselves. They'll go away all too often, because that's how it works in business. That's how it works in real life. That's how it works in government. We see that whenever both sides come together and they tackle a major issue because they came together, the areas, the extremes that we're talking about, doing all these extreme measures, they go away. And that's what I'm looking to do as the next state senator here in Tallahassee. And I do have to say, I am a little disappointed that I won't have the luxury of working with Representative Polsky when I get to Tallahassee.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Norton. One question each coming up. Mr. Norton, we'll start with you. You stated in an interview that people mistrust elected officials. Why should they trust you?
Perfect question, Dr. Watson. And it's because the fact that I will work every single day to earn their trust. Trust is something that is earned and is something that can be lost very easily. It comes by doing what you say you're going to do, being honest with your answers, being candid, and not being judgmental, right? So if we disagree on something, that's okay. I still want to talk with you. I still want to know your perspective. I still want to say, hey, how is this legislation that's going to be coming up, how is that going to affect your lives? How can we mitigate that? How can we make it so that you don't have to worry about what's going on? Because I see the role of government, or role of democracy really, is those of us who aren't in politics, right? We lift our heads up every so often, we listen, we vote, we get back to working on our families, ourselves, our businesses, our communities, and government is there to represent us. And if we don't trust them, if we don't see that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, taking care of the infrastructure in society, whether that's safety, roadways, education, any of those things, I'll use the Fort Lauderdale sewage in the streets. If they're not taking care of their part, we can't trust them. And it's our responsibility as legislators, as politicians, to go out there and earn their trust every single day. And I want to make myself available to everybody that's in my district, because I want to hear from them, whether you agree with me or not, because it's only by working together can we actually put real change that's going to help our community every single day and continue to make those improvements that we desperately need.
Thank you, Mr. Norton. Representative Polsky, you often say that being a mother and being a mediator are two important pluses to who you are and what you bring to elected office. Could you elaborate on that?
Sure. Obviously, my most important job in life is being a mother to my wonderful 16 and 19-year-old children. And I guess as most people out there know, mothers know how to multitask, manage a lot of things. I run a small business. My mediation business. I work with my husband on his recruiting business. I help take care of my children, and I'm a state representative. And how do I get it all done? Because I am dedicated, smart, efficient, and I do know how to multitask. And I've been doing it as a mother for over 19 years, almost 20. I can't believe she's going to be 20 soon. As a mediator, I work with all sides to get to resolution. Mr. Norton said we don't work with the other sides, or I don't talk to gun owners or Second Amendment advocates. I don't know how you would know that. I have been in this process and for the last 2 years, and the way I came to legislation and the way I came to votes is by speaking to people on all sides. So you really have no idea what I've been doing, and you're completely wrong. I do my research. As a mediator, I listen to sides, I help come up with solutions to problems, and I try to tamp down the excitement and the bitterness and the adversarial nature of proceedings. And I do that in Tallahassee. I help my own caucus. There's 47 strong people and everyone has different opinions. And as I've mentioned before, we need to stand together. So I've helped bring people into the fold and help them, kind of calm down and put aside our differences for the greater good. And that is something that we have to keep doing going forward. I have many friends on the Republican side. I've co-sponsored bills, worked with Republicans to get bills better. And I will continue to do that as hopefully your state senator.
Thank you, Representative Polsky. Representative Schlossberg, during your 12 years in the legislature, you were able to improve traffic safety, secure funds for guardrails along highways, as you mentioned, improve the state seatbelt laws, as you mentioned, driver education, and so forth and so on. Are there lessons from that experience that you could bring for another safety issue, and that's dealing with testing, COVID issues, and safety in our schools. You're muted, Representative Schlossberg.
Absolutely, Dr. Watson. Public safety is my number one priority. And right now, we're not safe. No one, you know, like when you look at what happened a year ago and today, we're just not safe. We're not safe because of the fact the testing, it's all screwed up. Like I said, my daughter had to wait 7 days for her result. And so what good is paying contact tracing people to, if you don't get the result for 7 days? It makes absolutely no sense. We're not safe. The unemployment system, it's broken. The website doesn't even work. You know, we need a leader, and we need somebody who's going to fight, and at the same time fighting, agreeing to get things done. I have a history of getting things done, saving tens of thousands of lives with my public safety legislation, and I could do the same with the issues of the day. And the issues of the day are the COVID problem, the broken down unemployment situation. And besides, I know the budget. I'm an expert on the budget. My competitor, she doesn't even understand the budget. She hasn't been there that long to understand it. I've been on healthcare appropriations, education appropriations, transportation appropriations. I know my way around Tallahassee.
Thank you, Representative Schlossberg. Now we're going to go to a lightning round. I'd like to ask Jim O'Neill, who's been helping us with the time, to put it at 30 seconds. So lightning round, a couple of questions for each of you. We'll start with Representative Schlossberg. Name a public official or a leader who inspires you. Who's your hero?
Dave Kerner. He came from being a policeman to being a state representative, to being the mayor of Boca. And last week I got shoes and I didn't even know the girl, but you know what she said to me? We got on the subject of Dave Kerner and she said to me, I sleep better now that Dave Kerner is our mayor.
Okay, Mayor of Palm Beach County. Mr. Norton, same thing. A hero, a public official that you admire?
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to say for me, it's, you know, I'm going to pick two presidents, Reagan and JFK. And it really comes down to the fact that of their ability to inspire people and to inspire communities to be better, to be the better versions of themselves. And that's one of the things I'm hoping to do as your next state senator.
Okay, thank you. Representative Polsky, your hero.
Sure. For me, it's Representative Congressman Ted Deutsch, who actually was, his first opponent was in the state Senate race was Irv Schlossberg. And he came from not being in politics, being a lawyer like me. He was a state senator. He has been an incredible congressman. I'm on a phone call with him twice a week, every week, with the Palm Beach County administrators talking about the COVID crisis. He is fighting so hard for his constituents. I'm thrilled to be his neighbor and his friend and to have his endorsement in this race. I learned so much from him, and he's really been a mentor and a friend. And we're all, for those of us who live in his district, we're all very lucky that he could be our congressman.
Thank you, Representative Polsky. Next question. 3, list what you think are the top 3 challenges facing Palm Beach County. And again, 30 seconds. Let's start with Representative Polsky.
Sure. The COVID epidemic, the health and economic crisis that it will bring, and we need to deal with that in when we get to Tallahassee. By the way, not till March, so testing is not a part of the budget. I do know the budget. Getting testing over these next bunch of months has nothing to do with the budget in Tallahassee next year, because that won't be until next July that becomes available. So dealing with the economy, the unemployment crisis, fixing the broken unemployment system, and we need to get gun violence under control, and we need to finally pass some common sense legislation when we can.
Good. Representative Schlossberg, top 3 issues facing Palm Beach County. You're muted.
Just to mention what Tina just said, she said that the testing isn't part of the budget. Well, you know, like she's the one who forgot she called for a special session so we can address this. However, she just forgot about what she said. So anyway, the thing is that I agree, the COVID epidemic, unemployment, and we have to, our education system, they need money to do all these tricks that the state is going to want them to do. They need a lot of money. So funding the education is the number three or number one. It's important.
Thank you, Representative Schlossberg. Mr. Norton, top 3 issues facing Palm Beach County.
Yeah, so it's going to be, like we've all said, it's going to be the COVID pandemic, getting that under control smartly, getting our citizens back to work safely, and getting our kids back into proper education safely. Those are the top 3 things that need to be handled here in Palm Beach County.
Thank you. I'd like the viewing audience to note that we're all in agreement on those things. Next lightning round, again, 30 seconds brief. What would you say is your biggest takeaway from the Black Lives Matter movement? Mr. Norton, we'll start with you.
I appreciate the question. For me, it's about the sense of injustice that many of our fellow citizens face every day. And it's also, shining a light on the fact that we need to modernize, our policing practices and not stick to the same old, same old. I used to say with my guys all the time, what was good enough for yesterday may not be good enough for today, and what's good enough for today may not be good enough for tomorrow. And that just means that we have to constantly be improving ourselves and improving what we do. There's many different ways to get it done. They're not all as equally effective, and I support many of the different efforts to modernize our policing to get it where it needs to be for our communities.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Norton. Representative Schlossberg, your main takeaway from the Black Lives Matter movement.
Watch what people do, not what they say. Lieutenant Colonel Pat Santangelo, Highway Patrol, came to me in 2001 or 2002 and says, "Hey, Irv, we got a problem. My wife and her friends are Haitian. They get on the bus on Palm Tran and they don't know, where to go or what to do because they speak Creole." So I got the board of directors of Palm Tran and we sat down, and it was English, Spanish, and Creole. Then the same thing for the drivers, the handbook. I got that transferred into English, Spanish, and Creole.
Okay, thank you, Representative Schlossberg. Representative Polsky, your main takeaway from the BLM movement.
To answer the question that you asked, I'm so pleased to see so many Americans get on board to the systemic racism that has been going on forever, and that just enough people haven't been aware of. And for whatever reason, social media, the fact that this is, all over, that there was video, and that now everyone can see what our African-American citizens have known their whole lives, that now everyone can see what goes on. I think that there will be a great new movement that emerges, and I'm really pleased to see the societal input and the people coming together for this issue. And I'm in complete agreement that there's so much more that needs to be done.
Okay, thank you. 2 more questions in our 30-second lightning round. Representative Schlossberg, we'll start with you this time. Tell us something about yourself that we may not know from your public life, your campaign literature, a hobby, something interesting about yourself.
I'm really a pretty boring guy. I go to the gym. I really, when we were inside for 6 weeks, I had to work out. So I worked out on the elliptical, and I was so comfortable. I worked out in my flip-flops for 6 weeks. And what I did was I killed my toes. And so now I have to wear these special shoes. I can't believe I thought I was a child wearing flip-flops on the elliptical.
You're only 29, Irv, so we'll forgive you for that one. Thank you. Mr. Norton, something we don't know about you from your public life and your campaign materials. You're muted, Mr. Norton.
Sorry about that. So over the last, couple of months, as I got into this race, I've been working to better myself. And one of the ways I've been doing that is I've lost almost 40 pounds since I got in this race. And it's really about me being the best candidate that I can be. and showing people, look, I'm willing to better myself, make myself the best version of myself that I can be, so I can best represent them when I get to Tallahassee.
Okay, thank you. Representative Polsky?
Sure. Since we're talking in the exercise realm, I'm a pretty competitive, fierce tennis player. I love playing. I've been involved with this women's doubles league since I've lived in Florida for the past 15 years. And I love it. I love playing. It's great exercise. It's social, being outside. And my whole family plays. I grew up playing tennis and I played in high school. And I really adore the sport.
Okay, thank you. Last lightning round question. Here's something I've been moderating debates and candidate forums for 30 years, even though I'm only 29 also. And I've always asked this question, and that is, I want you all to say something kind about your two opponents. We'll start with you, Mr. Norton.
I appreciate the opportunity. I'll be honest, I don't know Representative Schlossberg very well, but I do appreciate what he did for safety. I have 3 young children, and making sure that our children are safe in vehicles is, as a father, is vitally important. So I do appreciate that. And like I said before, Representative Polsky is my House representative. And, you know, I don't know her personally, but I do know other people that do know her, and they say she's a nice lady. She's a wonderful person. So that, again, that's what I hear. So I do appreciate that fact.
Thank you, Mr. Norton. Representative Schlossberg, in the name of civility, something nice about your two opponents. And you're on mute. There we go.
I never knew Mr. Norton, but like now that he said I'm right a few times, you know, like maybe we'll give him a switch card and he'll come over to our side, you know, like I don't know, is that possible, Mr. Norton? Nope. Okay, that's well, you know, he's a pretty nice guy. As far as Tina goes, you know, she was very nice, and you know, like I had nothing bad to say about her. She should have just stayed where she was at and enjoyed her last 6 years.
Okay, thank you. Representative Polsky?
I don't know Brian. I'm happy he's my constituent. He lives very close by. I always appreciate a family man, and I admire your willingness to enter public service, because it's certainly not easy, I can tell you that. Irv and I were friends. Emily and I are friends. It's very uncomfortable. I see Emily is there today, peeking in every now and again. It makes me very uncomfortable to have to kind of go against them. And Irv helped me my first campaign. He donated money to my campaign. He came to Century Village to help me campaign, which was really kind of him on my election day 2 years ago. And it makes me sad that I have to run against him. So that's just the way it goes.
I appreciate the civility, everyone. Final question, then we'll have our closing remarks. This is one that the Chamber was keen on: affordable or workforce housing. That's clearly an issue in some of our communities here in the county. Tell us what should be done and what you can do to improve the situation with workforce housing. Mr. Norton, we'll start with you.
Great. Yeah, no, I appreciate the question. And I've been actually talking with the community out in the Glades about this very issue. When it comes to stability in our society, in our infrastructure, having access to quality, affordable housing is vitally necessary. And I think we need to continue to fund those housing projects, and making sure that we don't drive out the businesses that also support those housing infrastructures. Whether that's in the Glades, whether it's here in the West Palm Beach area, Boca Raton, or anywhere else. And also to start to combat the things that are driving up the cost of housing. Because personally, as an owner of a house here in Palm Beach County, prices are very overpriced. They're very expensive, and I think it's sometimes unnecessarily so.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Norton. Representative Polsky, affordable and workforce housing.
Sure, I've been a proponent of this since I began. It was one of my first bills, was to not allow the legislative sweep the Sadowski Housing Trust Funds. Palm Beach County is a donor county. We put in so much more of our money into the trust fund, and it doesn't come back to Palm Beach County the way it should, the amount that we put in. Speaking of working with the county, I work with our county administrators, our whole delegation, every single day in Tallahassee, and we always fight for affordable housing dollars. And as I said, we were so pleased to finally have it fully funded in the budget. And unfortunately, it got slashed, which to me shows a priority of this governor. He decided to keep a $1 billion toll road to nowhere in the budget and put millions of dollars of it this year's budget and future billions of dollars, and yet slash the affordable housing budget. So this is a problem. They finally realized how important it was, and unfortunately it got slashed. So I will continue to always fight for affordable housing for Palm Beach
Thank
and
you,
borough.
Representative Polsky. Representative Schlossberg, affordable workforce housing. Oh, you're on mute.
There's another stark difference between myself and Tina. And Tina always uses the word fight, 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 fight. Irv delivers results. I know how to extract tens of millions or 50 million for driver's ed or whatever it is. Right now, I'm working with Mayor Kerner and Mayor Keith James, and we are working closely on a plan for how we're going to increase the dollars. And, you know, I mean, it's not about fighting, it's about delivering results.
Okay.
I deliver results.
Thank you, Representative Schlossberg. Representative Polsky, a 30-second response, and then we'll move to close.
Yes, we fight because we have not been able to get Sadowski funded fully in the years that it's been around. And I'd like to know what you did to deliver results to get Sadowski funding for Palm Beach County, because it did not happen in your tenure.
Representative Schlossberg, 30 seconds.
Yeah, that's a great question. And Tina's always blaming me for everything. However, I fought to keep Sadowski funding. It didn't always get slashed. Sometimes it got slashed and sometimes it didn't.
Okay, let's move to our, in the name of time, let's move to our closing remarks, 2 minutes each, and we'll go in reverse order from the opening. So Representative Schlossberg, you have the first close.
On mute. Oh, wait a second.
You're on, you're good.
Hold it. Am I unmuted?
Yeah, no, you're live. We can hear you.
Oh, I'm live? Okay, good. Okay. I have 20 years of experience. I've served on the Justice Appropriations Committee. I've served on the Transportation Appropriations Committee. I served on the Healthcare Appropriations Committee. I've served on Education. I know the budget. I've passed 20 bills. And when Tina said before that I never passed any gun legislation, Tina forgot to say that I was the co-sponsor on banning assault rifles, universal background checks, banning open carry in schools and colleges, which Tina says I voted for. And I'm everywhere in Tallahassee. I am the guy who can deliver results. I've delivered results. This is not about fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting. This is about delivering. I have the experience, and there's a lot to be said for experience. And it's all about relationships. Whether it's relationships on the ground here in Palm Beach County, or whether it's relationships in Tallahassee, or whether it's relationships with the staff of the executive branch of the government. I have all the relationships necessary to get things done. And this is really about getting things done. It's not about talking. It's about getting things done. And to close, does Tina really think I'm a member of the NRA? And does she think I'm conservatively, here it says, I'm dangerously conservative, I'm pro-gun, I'm pro-NRA. Is this the way to get elected, Tina?
Thank you, Representative Schlossberg. Mr. Norton, your closing 2 minutes.
Thank you, Dr. Watson. And again, thank you to the Central Palm Beach County Chamber for giving me the time and the opportunity to speak with the residents here in Palm Beach County. I just want to let everybody know that I'm running to really drive forward change and improvements here in our community. I'm not running for something else that is something greater down the road. I'm running for my kids, you and your kids and your grandchildren. And an honest truth is, as the only Republican in this race, when elected in Tallahassee, we're still going to have a majority, right? And that comes with a lot of benefits. And that comes with the ability to actually get legislation brought up and out of committee. That comes with the ability to get appropriations for our district, right? And I take a look at what has happened in the last 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 years and see how much money has come back to our district. And the honest answer is nowhere near enough. I think I was quoted by somebody saying it's like 33 cents on the dollar. Every dollar we put in, we get 33 cents back. How is that right? We have a lot of things that we need to be improving in our community here today, whether it's from traffic, making sure that we maintain clean and low costs of potable drinking water, making sure we have sufficient schools, firehouses, affordable housing, all these different areas we need to be taken care of. And as the Republican, I'm going to have the ear of the governor. I'm going to have the ear of the majority leader in the Senate and probably in the House as well. And I'll be able to actually get things done and get results and not have to worry about, oh, what do I have to give up to get it? No, because they're gonna want to keep me in this seat, and they're gonna want somebody because I'm gonna be delivering results for our community.
Thank you, Mr. Norton. Representative Polsky, final close.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me today. It's been an honor to be the state representative in Palm Beach County. And as such, I have my feet on the ground dealing with this COVID crisis every single day. And for the hundreds and thousands of constituents who have reached out, who have needed help, and we have been there for. The thank yous that we get is so heartening to hear. My staff is working so hard to deal with all the problems and the heartbreak and the tears and the frustrations that people have. And when we can help them, they are so appreciative. I promise to maintain that kind of constituent service, which is the most important thing I think that a state senator can do. And I believe my track record in constituent service and being available and around and there and accessible is what will get me over the finish line. The people know it. As I said, strangers reach out to me, donate to me, talk to me on my social media, and just want to be a part of it because they trust that I will look out for their best interests. In Tallahassee, we have to be the fighters that we are, because we are in the minority. This is a Democratic primary that's coming up first before we deal with the general election. And so who do you want as a member, if you're a Democrat listening, in your minority caucus? You want the people who are going to stick together, not be picked off to vote for the Republican reapportionment plan, but to be a strong member of the caucus that you can trust and who will be loyal and to move our Democratic agenda forward. And between my current experience and my future capabilities, I believe I am the best person to be the next state senator for District 29. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Representative Polsky. I want to thank all three of the candidates and wish all three of you the best. Thank again the Central Palm Beach Chamber for organizing this event. I noticed we have a lot of questions and chat responses. Please send those to the chamber, who will distribute them to our three candidates. I'd like to remind everybody to vote. Our primary is on August 18th, and we do, as Representative Polsky said, have a competitive Democratic primary. The deadline to register is July 20th, so it's just around the corner. Our general election is on November 3rd. If anyone has any questions on the candidates voting, vote by mail, please reach out to the Palm Beach County Supervisor of Elections office at pbcelections.org or the local Palm Beach County League of Women Voters, and they can both answer all your questions. Let me now turn the program back to Mary Lou Bedford, the CEO of the Central Palm Beach County Chamber.
Thank you so much, Dr. Watson. And thank you to our candidates for the Florida Senate District 29. We so appreciate you all being here. For the audience, those who are tuning in, if you do have questions for the chamber or for your candidates, you could reach us at the email at info@cpbchamber.com or go on our website at cpbchamber.com and you can get the candidates' information right there. On behalf of our Central Palm Beach County Board of Directors, our Economic Development Government Affairs Committee, our staff, and our wonderful partner, Florida Public Utilities, we really appreciate the candidates being here today. We appreciate the audience for tuning in. And we want to just remind you, we have our last candidate forum of the series tomorrow at 11:30, and that'll be the Port of Palm Beach. Our moderator will be Sharon Merchant, and we are really looking forward to that as well. Again, I can't thank our candidates and our moderator so much for a really informative forum. We wish you all the best, and if you need the chamber, please feel free to reach out to us. Thanks so much, and you all have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.